In this video, we'll show you how to use configuration files to make your inverter compliant with different grid operators. This is by far the simplest way to make the various setting changes required by different grid operators. Various SMA inverters currently support setting changes through configuration files. The Sunny Boy 3 to 6, the Tri-Power between 3 and 10 kilowatts all support the configuration files for commissioning the inverter. It is also supported by Core 1, but at this time you need to request configuration files by emailing solaracademy@sma-australia.com.au. To commission a inverter from a configuration file, you just need a smartphone, smart tablet, or a laptop which can connect to our inverters via WLAN or a direct Ethernet cable. Please note, iPhones and other iOS devices currently cannot upload configuration files to our inverters. The first step is to obtain the configuration file from SMA. The format will likely be in a zip file. It's important that you unzip the file first. The zip file will contain a README. It will also contain the configuration files in a BCK file format. As we are doing Horizon today, there are two different regions in Horizon, which is why there are two different BCK files available. The README to the configuration file contains important information about which inverter models are compatible and the version number of the standard which was used to create the configuration file. Since grid operators change standards from time to time, it's important to check that the configuration file standard matches the standard that you were provided by the grid operator. In the case of Horizon, there are also two different regions within Horizon, so you need to understand which region applies for your installation and therefore which configuration file needs to be used. There is also information about which settings will be changed by the configuration file. The first step is to connect to the inverter from your smart device. We will do this with WLAN in this case. Find the inverter's WLAN network, which is simply its serial number. As our inverter has been running for more than 10 hours, I'll need to enter in the password written on the type label of the inverter next to the WPA2 PSK label. Once you connect to the inverter's WLAN, if it has new firmware, it will automatically open the user interface of the inverter. Otherwise, you need to go to 192.168.12.3. We assume in this video that the inverter is already commissioned. During the commissioning process where you use the installation assistant, you would have already set up the inverter's connection to the internet, its time zone, and other settings related to the operation of the inverter. The configuration file only applies the necessary country standard settings to make the inverter compliant with the grid operator. After you're at the home page of the inverter, press Login and use the installer login. In this case, the inverter has been running for more than 10 hours, so we need to enter in a GridGuard code to use the configuration file. Click on the user settings, then press SMA GridGuard Login. Now press Device Configuration. You'll see a list of connected devices to the inverter. Click on the row related to the inverter. For example, in this case we have STP 5.0. Press on the settings wheel, then click Adopt the configuration from a file. Then press Browse and look for the configuration file you wish to use. In this case, I will use the STP 3 to 6 file for the Horizon network. Then press Import File. A dialog box will appear showing the progress of the configuration file upload. It will also show some of the parameter changes that are being made in the inverter. This process may take a couple minutes depending on the connection to the inverter and the size of the configuration file. When the configuration file has been successfully uploaded to the inverter, you'll see a parameter upload complete message and the close button appear. Press close. The inverter now has the relevant settings for this particular grid operator. You can check the Events tab to see which parameters have been changed.